This is the geometry editor that is just in Daz Studio, period. And this is the weight painting brush. This right here is the geometry sculptor. Now, these aren't on your interface by default, but they are right here in under tools. You have geometry editor, and here is geometry sculptor right here. That's the tool that I use is geometry sculptor. And the way I put it on my toolbar here is I type F3, which is the same thing as going Windows Workspace Customize. Okay. So Windows Workspace Customize or F3, and that brings up this pane right here. Now, I didn't sort mine out properly, so all of mine are under viewport tools. And here we can see where I have my geometry sculptor, and you can right click and add a separator. That's how you get these little lines in there. And for Geometry Sculptor, now on this is the side where you find the tools that you want to add to your toolbar, and it's not always easy to find them. So when you go to set up your toolbar using F3 like this, you want to set aside some time to just take your time and look around. Let's see, it's not going to be under shaping. That's like morphing adjustments and stuff like that. Viewport tools. Ha! I found it right off the bat. Viewport tools, which, it doesn't seem to make sense that it would be under viewport tools, but something tools. But anyway, there it is. Viewport tools, geometry sculptor, and then you just drag it over here, and there it is. I'm not going to do it because it's already there. While we're on this, I'd just like to point out that one of the things that I did just recently is okay, I have my menu up here, Matthew, and that's where I have the new D-Force ArcMage tools. And so I've been using that all the time. But now I'm I basically always use that as my simulator. Here, this is my simulation. That's like hitting the simulation or simulate button on your simulate pane, simulation settings pane. Now, to find ArcMage, there's this custom right at the very top. And since I added it, Slater told me that since I added as a custom action up here, or favorites or anything like that, you can find it in your list. And so these are all the things that I've added in my menu. And so here I've got, there's Scene Optimizer, iRay Uber Base, all these different things. And anything that's got an icon like that or something, you can add that on your toolbars. And I just kept scrolling down until I found now when I see these, I can tell that I'm in Archmage territory because these are Archmage icons, and I just look for the one that's different, that little green wavy thing, and there we go. And so I just dragged that right next to Rosie 8.25. All right, so I'm going to cancel out of that. Okay, now here is Geometry Sculptor. There we go. I said that we need to keep the tool settings open, and that's true because tool settings, see this radius down here, this bottom slider just above the word smooth. Now it's set to 4. The default is either 5 or 6 when it first, the first time you use it in a new session. But until you close Daz Studio and reopen it, it'll stay at whatever number you set in here. And Now, I knew that I was coming in to do this, so I saved this scene, but uh, with this staff and this D-Force cloak in here, I was having a hard time because by default, let's go back to the beginning here and let's select that cloak. Here's the hooded cloak. And if I turn off this, now it's already simulated, so we're not seeing it. But in the default pose, now right now the cloak is intersecting with this staff. So this morph right here, I just made just before simulating this, just so that the robe is free and clear of the staff, and it was risen above his sleeve here, so that I could get a good simulation result, which worked. Okay, and now the hat I animated so that at frame 10, that's where it belongs. And then at frame 0, I have it up and rotated a bit just so that as it comes down, it can push the hair. Okay, and then when I first set up this character as a full character with clothing and hair and everything like that, after I simulated the hair, I actually used the geometry sculptor to put a morph on the hair itself for after the simulation. And I just got done doing the simulation, so I didn't apply this yet. So let me just show you. So now I have this morph and I saved it onto the character in here. Genesis 8 male characters, and right here, this. When I load this, it has this morph. I didn't save this morph onto classic blowout hair. I made this morph on this hair, and then I left this hair on. And after clearing the simulation, I have him saved here as a full character. And so the morphs that I make for the cloak won't be saved on here unless I save it again. So I'm going to have to save it again. Okay. Now we have the tool selected. And so now we select an item. Let's go with just for sake of example, let's go with the hooded cloak again. Actually, I don't want to do that because I'm going to render this when we're all done, and I don't want to just mess with that simulation. So instead, why don't we select the staff? And so now that's actually parented to his hand, but that doesn't matter. We have the staff selected. So if we select the geometry sculptor tool, now this comes with Studio Premiere. And with Geometry Sculptor, I don't need my mesh grabber because this is mesh grabber, but this is after it's gone through updates. Okay. Let's take a look at these updates. Now we have, if we select something in here, now one of the add-ons I think added rotations or something. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the add-ons did for it anymore. But I asked if he could add on scale, and he did. And then before it actually got released as like a mesh grabber add-on or anything like that, somehow it ended up as part of Daz Studio Premiere, which is really cool. That was one of the big Premiere selling points. It's always one of the big Premiere selling points for me. And now another thing that I really like about the enhancements with um, the geometry sculptor tool is this line right here. Okay, we can smooth with it. You can smooth your geometry. You can sculpt with it, and you can use it like a regular modeling tool. This radius is what is your soft selection radius. You'll have that in any modeling tool. So now if you hit this reset button, it will clear anything that you've just done in this session. So all of that stuff that I just did to this nice staff have now been erased, okay? And you'll see that right here is where you can save a morph. If I go like this, and as soon as you make a change, you can save it into a morph, which ends up as a dial. I didn't make any for this yet. Well, I'm not going to, but it'll show up right here as geometry editor, or you can see it, I mean, geometry sculptor. That will be the name that shows up when you select the item, and like pose controls, display, general. One of these, there will be one more listing here called geometry sculptor, and that's where your morphs will be saved as dials like these. And it won't go below 0. It'll just be 0 to 100. And it will automatically be set to 100 unless you edit its default parameters. I just leave these default and I let it save it into Geometry Sculptor, because then I always know where to find my Geometry Sculptor edits. However, if you want to say these are my morphs, that's the name that's going to show up here. Okay, it'll show up as my morphs, or whatever you type in that line. Okay, so let's reset this again. But this is the tool that I'm using. And if I drag the radius all the way to 0, that is uh, uh, that's when you want to move the whole thing, or just a part of it. So something that can be really cool. Let's go geometry selection. I just right clicked into an empty spot of the scene, and now I'm just going to clear the selection. So nothing is selected. And now these buttons up here, uh, right here is the geometry editor tool, and right here is the weight brush tool. And those I've always had up here, but now the new geometry sculptor includes them right in the tool settings, which is really handy. So I'm in geometry sculptor, and now I can go to geometry editor, and I don't really, I'm not paying attention to this in here. I'm just going to right click in here, and I'm going to go geometry selection, select by surfaces, and I'm going to select the head. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my geometry sculptor tool, and I've got the radius set to 0. So now I can just go like that. Okay. And now if I uh, create a morph, and I'll call it losing my head, and I'm going to put this under examples to be deleted, just as an example. Okay. And we'll go like this. And now you can come here and you'll see examples to be deleted. And here's my morph that's set to 100. Crank it back to 0. And now something that's really interesting about this is we can come now to parameter settings and go, I don't want any limits. Okay. Now, instead of being at zero way over here, now zero is in the middle, and you can't just click in here anymore because it's an infinite thing. You have to grab this, and now you can actually go as far as you want. And that works with any kind of morph as long as, you know. However, I am going to now alt click this to clear it, and then I'm going to go edit mode, and I'm going to right click on this and go delete selected property. And now I'm going to get back out of edit mode, and you'll see that that whole listing is now gone. Okay. Yeah. So I hope you understand that what I'm using is Geometry Sculptor. In Movie Magic, where your question originated, that was Mesh Grabber, and I was using the whole bundle because I actually needed all of the tools. I didn't buy Mesh Grabber until I could get the whole bundle. And um, yeah, I was going to show you something on here, but I really can't. But yes, yeah. See now, like I need this hooded cloak to collide against the beard. When it doesn't collide, excuse me, when it doesn't collide against the beard, it actually comes up through the beard in the simulation, which I wasn't quite expecting, but it does. And so I actually collided against the beard, and because of that, I actually created my own, and that was just new. I just did it today. Like I say, I use this tool every single day and I use it all day. So when I select the Wise Wizard beard, here we've got Geometry Sculptor. And when I first saved this guy here, I when he was saved, he had right forward and right left one. And that was just to help with simulations, um, protecting the the cloak from being pushed into the character from the beard. There are tools, there are morphs on the beard, but they weren't doing enough for my simulation purposes. So I made these, and it's really easy. So like this is left forward, and that's what this one does. It pulls the whole beard forward. And now how I did that, that's still selected. Let's go to tool settings, and we'll set this to 8, I believe it was. And I just grab some grab some part of the beard, and see these little gizmos here with the triangles, and it'll when you highlight it, it'll tell you translate along Y and Y. Weird. Yeah, I think it meant Z and Y. See how nice that is? With those bigger numbers in here, and you can make the numbers really big if you want. I mean, click this and it'll go way out of proportion. I actually wrote a ticket about that because Mesh Grabber does this in nice, like, one half, like zero point 0.5 increments. This one goes like 50. It's terrible. Um, so you can't use the plus sign. You have to actually type your digits in there. 10 is going to be a lot of influence. Okay. And if you just want to, oops, let's say we select something right here, and I just want to move that, but I don't want all of this affected. That's where you start lowering this down. And 2 will make it really kind of small, but you can get smaller. See how small of an influence that is? But it really works nice in a lot of situations. It's not really all that applicable right here, but it certainly can be. All right, great. I hope that answers your question. I'm out of here, and so I can get this guy rendered. I really hope this helps. If not, at least it gets us onto a page that we can continue this discussion instead of beating ourselves up. Take care. Ciao. Oh, what a blast.